Hi everyone, my name is Terry Westwell and today is Tuesday, which means it's time to discuss our Panic at the Book Club book of the week, which is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. If you like romance, fantasy, or even thriller, basically anything fiction book related, then I suggest you head on over to the channel's intro video, where you can find out more information on how you can take part in this online book club. We announce books at least 4 weeks in advance, and we accept your bookish feedback in a wide manner of ways. Post your comment below a video, send in a voice note, or even send me a short video clip of you discussing the book. Alternatively, you can just send me a direct message. Sparks fly when a competitive figure skater and a hockey team captain are forced to share a rink. Anastasia has worked her entire life for a shot at Team USA, and it looks like everything's going according to plan when she gets a full scholarship to University of California, Maple Hills, and manages to land a spot on the competitive figure skating team. And nothing will stand in her way, not even the hockey team's captain, Nate Hawkins. Nate's focus as team captain is to keep the team on the ice, which is kind of hard when a facility mishap means that they have to share an ice rink with the figure skating team, including Anastasia, who clearly can't stand him. But when Anastasia's skating partner faces an uncertain future, she may have to look to Nate to take her shot. Sparks fly, but Anastasia isn't worried because she could never like a hockey player, right? This is a spoiler-free part of the video where first we'll discuss any spoiler-free points before moving on to a clearly marked section of the video which will contain spoilers and more specifics about the book. For once, I'm not going to start with the chapter lengths, I'm going to start with, a disclaimer of sorts. I fully went into this book expecting that I was going to hate it, and I don't like doing that for several reasons. One, I don't want it to affect my genuine thoughts and feelings about the book, but also, and I understand the irony in what I'm about to say, it doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter what other people think. You should enjoy a book simply because you enjoy it and not because of what other people think. And I know it kind of sounds like I'm gearing up to say that I hated this book, but I genuinely kind of liked it. I mean, the ending wasn't my favourite. If you know, you know. Or if it wasn't for that, I think I would have rated it higher. I really did enjoy it. There were certain elements I just wasn't a huge fan of. I mean, the dialogue, for one, didn't feel realistic at times. It's just not how people would talk to each other. I found that the main character could be a little annoying at times, but it was easy to read, spicy, and it had quite a sweet storyline. The chapter lengths were actually fairly solid. I mean, they were usually around that 10-page mark, and it was a dual POV between Anastasia and Nate, the two main characters. I will say that this is my first time really reading this sort of sports romance. I did read Done and Dusted, which is, of course, about horses, but that's like my full experience in any sort of sports romance. Putting aside the very positive and very negative things that I've heard about this book, the sports, hockey, figure skating thing was the main reason that I didn't have such high hopes for enjoying this one. I just wasn't sure that it would be my sort of thing, and to be honest, I'm still not sure that it is, because although they did talk about it a lot, the sports themselves didn't feature all that much in the book. In the end, I did like the characters. I thought it was fairly sweet, and although I did have my issues with the book, it was easy to read, and I thought that the spice was written fairly well, although there was a lot of it. Like, the writing may have felt a little naive at times, but it also had some genuinely funny moments as well. If I had to compare this to any other book, it would probably be The After series by Anna Todd or Beautiful Disaster by Jamie Maguire. I did previously discuss Beautiful Disaster, and looking back now, I think I may have been a little too harsh on it. I like to read some dark romance, but there is a difference between dark romance and what some of these books sometimes write about, which is normalizing very toxic behavior to quite a young reader audience. I'm not saying that Icebreaker necessarily does this, but to me, it's just that the age of the characters does make a huge difference in these sort of books. And while they say college, I do have to remind myself that they mean like 20 years old, because here in the UK, college is like 16 to 18, whereas in America it's like 20 years old. So, when you're talking about books with this amount of spice, it does make a huge difference. Now we're moving on to that part of the video where I suggest if you haven't read this book yet, go do that first, because beyond this point there'll definitely be spoilers. So whenever this comes up, I always say that I don't need nor want this closed off, complete ending. Like, it seems super common in romance books where they do this, I don't know, 5 years later, they're knocked up, already had 2 kids, and not getting married, blah, blah, blah. And more often than not, I fucking hate that. Usually, though, if it is just one chapter at the end, I try and not let it affect my overall thoughts on the book. I try and go on and pretend like it never happened because I don't like it, I didn't need it, and sometimes it doesn't even make sense. But all of those things did apply to the ending of this book. It wasn't needed, I didn't like it, and it didn't even make sense. So, unfortunately, it did affect my overall rating. And I mean, I could see it coming. At times, the book felt a little bit like that sex education class from Mean Girls.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in the missionary position. Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it. Promise? Okay, everybody take some rubbers.
At one point in the book, they make a thing to say that if she was ever to have kids, she would like to adopt because she was adopted. And I kind of thought, that's sweet. But no, instead they accidentally get knocked up. And keep in mind, I think this was only like 2.5 years later. And I think that if they'd have made it like, 10 years later, I would have been less annoyed by it. Like, it just seems to feed into this whole thing that to be happy, a woman needs to be knocked up and pregnant in her early 20s. Like, she couldn't have just enjoyed the career that she worked so damn hard for just a little bit longer, especially considering they made a big thing to say that, careers like that don't tend to last after having children. Anyway, moving on, because I really don't know if that's an unpopular opinion or not, because it just seems to be everywhere. All I know is that the true romance story here is between Henry and Anastasia. I think that it was such a sweet representation of platonic friendship and love between a male and a female character. And Henry was so sweet, you could see why all of the female characters just fell for him. At times I do feel like the book had him a little bit too young and naive, but by the end, I just loved how the whole team became this kind of family to Anastasia. It might be a little cheesy, but I don't know, I'm a big softie at heart, and I just thought it was really sweet. Like, there were times where Anastasia was just quite annoying. Like, some of her pranks seemed really immature and mean and just not funny at all. Like, the big thing at the end about Nate not really listening to her, I do get it, but at the same time, he wasn't being listened to either. Like, apparently he was being so unreasonable, but everyone seemed to forget how Aaron is the one who also messed up with his life and his career as well. I just think that it was about him as well, and he was constantly being told that he was in the wrong because he didn't like the situation because he didn't trust Aaron. And then, after apologising and working everything out, he was immediately proven right that Aaron was in fact a skis ball with something else up his sleeve. In general, though, I liked the characters, I liked the romance, and I thought that the spice was written quite well. I mean, it was an incredibly long book for what it was. There was a lot going on, and there was a lot of drama. So, as for the question, would I recommend the book? I'm not really sure. I mean, it's not a no. I mean, I really did enjoy the book. I'm just not sure who I would recommend the book to. There are other books that I would probably recommend first. I would advise not being put off by the sports theme because there wasn't actually a ton of detailed sports stuff in it. It was just a nice theme throughout. You know, it helped to the overall plot and storyline without it feeling like you were actually reading about hockey. So will I be reading any more by Hannah Grace? I don't think I'm in a rush to go and immediately pick up another one. However, if one just so happened to be in front of me, then I probably wouldn't mind reading it. But let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy the book? Next week, we're discussing One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, so don't forget to get your comments and thoughts in by Monday the 7th of October at the latest to be a part of the discussion. You can now do this on YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram. The following week, we'll be discussing The Murder After the Night Before, but don't forget if you do need a little bit longer to read a book, we do now list the next 4 books down below, along with the discussion dates. That way you can choose the genre that best suits you, and the best time frame to read it in. Thank you all for joining, and if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It's always appreciated, and I will see you next week. Bye!